move on to the peripherals, which will be the last section of this video. So first I'm going to talk about the Subnordids. So as to the Subnordids, here we've got a couple of types that are a mixture of Alpine and Norid. So you can see here the skull is influenced by Alpine, but in this fellow's case he's still curvoccipital, so you can clearly see the Norid features there. This is a German from Spreewald. And then here's another fellow who's also Alpine with Norid. Here the Alpine is stronger, as you can see. He's Alpine with Norid or Atlantomed, Coon says. So he may well have Norid features. He's a Ukrainian from Volyn. This fellow is a Swiss-German, and again the Norid element is quite strong here. And you can see that in his occiput and a little in his forehead and face. And yeah, he's Swiss-German from Bern. Then we move on to a heavily alpinized Celtic Norid here. This is a typical northern French Subnordid. Subnordid is the strongest element in the northern French population because of the mix of Frankish and Gallic heritage. So he's a heavily alpinized Celtic Norid, but he's highly brachycephalic and he's blonde. Again, characteristic of northern French. Here we have the Danubians. So this fellow here is said to be similar to the Neolithic Danubian. He's an Englishman from Southampton. As you can see, he's got a skull that would be said to be alpinized, so he's got Alpinoid and Nordic features there. The Danubians were sort of a pseudo-Nordic stock. They were mesocephalic blonde Mediterraneans who are said to have participated in the formation, especially of the Hallstatt Norid. So this guy again is said to be of Danubian metrics, but he's also said to be similar to smaller med types. He's a Norwegian from Oslo, so less typical population element in his area. This is a good example of the Danubian type again, and he's a mixed Ukrainian Pole. Then we have brachycephalic Neo-Danubian approximation, who shows clear Nordic influence. And he's from Linz in Austria. So again, the Alpine element and the Nordic element are both strong in Austria, and they also have a strong, very large population of Norics, which we'll come on to briefly. Here is another brachycephalized Danubian, and this fellow is a Lithuanian, so he's part of the northeastern part of this particular continuum. And then we come on to a couple more examples. These are Subnordics that show clear Borreby residuals. So it's from the same section. So yep, this fellow is South Dutch. He's from North Brabant, and you can see the Borreby residual, but he's largely Subnordic. And then again, this guy is from West Flanders, and you can see the clear Alpine influence. I mean, he's planoccipital, whereas which means the back of his skull is flat, whereas Borrebies, even despite their brachycephaly, have curvoccipital skulls. So Subnordic, but with clear Borreby influence if you look at his facial features. Right, so that finishes the Subnordic section. We've got Noric, and then we move on to the Baltic type I mentioned. So here we've got classic Noric type. This is another among the tribe of Gegs, among the Albanians. And yeah, he's blonde. And then here we have someone who's not especially Noric, but he's said to be approaching Noric. It would maybe be better to say he's a Dinaro-sized corded Norid. It's a fellow from Heidelberg in Germany. So again, the corded skull is very long and very high. The Noric skull is very high, but very short. So you can see both influences here. He's got a slightly curvoccipital skull and longer than a typical Noric. It also seems to be a little narrower, but I don't have his measurements to hand. So. Then we've got two more Noric examples. There's a fellow from Berlin in Germany, and he says that the type is relatively common in East Germany. Here's another Noric. He's another example of a Galician Pole. The final section of this video will be the Baltics. And so first we'll talk about the Neo-Danubians, and then we'll come on to the Baltics proper. So here we have a Neo-Danubian recapitulation showing extreme brachycephaly. He's actually from Saxony in Germany, which is one of the few regions in Germany where that type is present. Here's another example of the Neo-Danubian type, and he's a Ukrainian from Volyn again. And here we have one more example of the type, and this is a White Russian from Minsk. Okay, so here we have one that's transitional to Boroby, which is again the type we've already shown. This fellow is a Pole from Grodno. And here's a guy who I've put in this section, but he's just mentioned as a Norid brachycephalized by an unknown agency. He's actually a commie from the East Russian Finnic groups. Now some very good examples of the Baltic type, what we call the Baltic type, what he calls East Baltic here. So this is the Prussian Field Marshal von Hindenburg, and this is his successor, the Field Marshal von Blomberg, both of them of East Prussian descent, and both of them high-ranking military officers in what was Prussia. And this is East Baltic proper. This is what we would call East Baltic in our online anthropology circles, but it's lumped in with these examples, better examples of Baltids, what we call Baltids. This guy shows he's a Lithuanian from Vilna, but he shows the Ladogan influence, the Mongolized influence of the stock. Hope you enjoyed. Again, let me know what you'd like to see more of, and sub and share.